The Tomorrow Series, Episode 4. What choice is tomorrow waiting for you to make? Reflections of Mosy. A quiet road. No signs. No voices. No instructions. Just a path stretching into the distance. And the question: what choice is tomorrow waiting for you to make? Not next year. Not someday. Not when everything becomes clear. Today. Right now. Because tomorrow is not built from dramatic moments, it is built from choices so small that most people never notice them. A sentence spoken instead of swallowed. A step taken instead of postponed. A habit repeated one more time. A thought accepted. A thought rejected. And yet somehow entire futures emerge from these nearly invisible moments. The strange thing about choice is that we often imagine it as something obvious, a crossroads, a life changing decision, a single moment where everything suddenly becomes different. But most choices do not arrive with fanfare. Most choices arrive quietly, disguised as ordinary moments, and because they appear ordinary, we underestimate them. That may be why tomorrow often feels mysterious. Not because it is hidden, but because we fail to recognize the decisions that are already creating it. The illusion of the big decision. Human beings are fascinated by major turning points. We talk about the day someone changed careers, the day they moved away, the day they fell in love, the day everything collapsed, the day everything began. History itself is often told through these moments. But when we look more closely, something interesting appears. The visible turning point is rarely the beginning, it is usually the result, a consequence, the final expression of hundreds of smaller decisions that came before. The person who suddenly became healthy did not become healthy in one day. The person who suddenly became successful did not become successful in one day. The person who suddenly lost everything rarely lost everything in one day. Long before the visible outcome appeared, choices were already accumulating, quietly, patiently, like drops of water filling a hidden reservoir. And one day the reservoir overflows. People call it sudden. Tomorrow calls it predictable. Tomorrow watches patterns. Imagine for a moment that tomorrow could observe you, not as a person, not as a judge, not as a mystical force, simply as a witness. What will it see? It would not focus on your intentions. It would not listen to your promises. It would not be impressed by your plans. Tomorrow would look at patterns, because patterns reveal more than words. A single action says very little. A repeated action says everything. Anyone can make a promise. Anyone can have a dream. Anyone can imagine a better future. But patterns reveal the direction in which a life is actually moving. And tomorrow understands something that today often forgets. Direction matters more than speed. A person walking slowly toward a destination will eventually arrive. A person running in circles remains where they started. Tomorrow is not asking how fast you are moving. Tomorrow is asking where you are going. The choice beneath the choice. Sometimes we think a choice is about one thing, when it is actually about something deeper. Consider a person deciding whether to exercise. The visible choice appears simple: exercise or don't exercise. But underneath that decision lies another choice: the choice to believe that future health matters, or the choice to believe it does not. A person deciding whether to study, a person deciding whether to save money, a person deciding whether to tell the truth. Each visible decision rests upon invisible assumptions, values, beliefs, priorities, identity. And this is where tomorrow becomes interesting because tomorrow is often shaped less by what we do than by who we become. Every choice quietly answers a question. What kind of person am I becoming? The answer is rarely spoken aloud. It is written through action, one decision at a time. The seduction of delay. There is a phrase many people tell themselves: I'll do it tomorrow. At first, it sounds harmless, reasonable, even practical. But delay has a strange effect on the human mind. The more often we postpone something important, the easier postponement becomes. Not because the task changes, but because we change. Every repeated delay teaches the mind a lesson. Not today, not now, maybe later. And eventually, later becomes a habit. Tomorrow is full of things that were once supposed to happen today: dreams, conversations, projects, apologies, acts of courage. Entire futures have disappeared into the space between now and later, not because people lacked potential, but because delay slowly became identity, and identity eventually became destiny, the invisible architecture of the future. Imagine a city being built every day. Workers place bricks, a few bricks at a time. Nothing dramatic appears to happen. A visitor might return after 1 week and see almost no difference. After 1 month, still very little. After 1 year, an entire structure stands where empty ground once existed. The future is built in a similar way. One page read, one conversation, one act of patience, one act of discipline, one moment of kindness, one moment of restraint. Individually, they seem small. Collectively, they become architecture. Tomorrow does not emerge from nowhere. It is constructed, brick by brick, choice by choice. The future you never meet. There is a future version of yourself that will never exist, not because it failed, not because it was destroyed, but because it was never chosen. Every decision creates possibilities. At the same time, it closes others. This is one of the deepest truths about choice. To choose one road is to leave another unexplored. And yet, many people spend years mourning paths they never walked. Imagining alternate lives, alternate outcomes, alternate versions of themselves. Tomorrow, however, has no access to those imaginary futures. Tomorrow can only inherit what today creates. The future you become is not the result of infinite possibilities. It is the result of the possibilities you repeatedly choose. The weight of a single decision. Most decisions seem small while they are being made, but history tells a different story. A conversation can change a relationship. A book can change a worldview. A question can change a life. A single act of courage can redirect an entire future. The difficulty is that we rarely recognize important choices in real time. When they arrive, they often look ordinary, which means wisdom may not be the ability to predict consequences. Perhaps wisdom is learning to treat ordinary moments with extraordinary attention, because one of those moments may already contain the future. What is tomorrow waiting for? So we return to the question: what choice is tomorrow waiting for you to make? Perhaps it is not a dramatic decision. Perhaps it is not a life changing announcement. Perhaps tomorrow is waiting for something much smaller: a conversation, a beginning, a commitment, a truth, a habit, a step. Something that appears insignificant today, yet becomes obvious when viewed from the future. Tomorrow is patient. Tomorrow does not rush. Tomorrow understands that entire destinies are often hidden inside choices that seem too small to matter. But tomorrow also understands something else. Eventually, every choice becomes invisible. Every direction eventually reaches a destination. Every pattern eventually reveals itself. And every future eventually arrives. One day you will stand inside a tomorrow that does not yet exist. You will look around. You will see the shape of your life, the roads you followed, the habits you repeated, the choices you embraced, the choices you avoided. And perhaps then you will realize something surprising. Tomorrow was never waiting for certainty. Tomorrow was never waiting for perfection. Tomorrow was waiting for a choice. A choice so small that today almost ignored it, yet powerful enough to build an entire future. What choice is tomorrow waiting for you to make? The Tomorrow Series, Episode 4, Reflections of Mosy.